Hello. I've been not feeling the best, so I'm gonna go back to what I love and I'm going to paint today. I haven't done a painting in like a year, and I grew up doing paintings with my mom, so this is really fun. I'm really excited. The most soothing way for me to paint is to just do it based off of another painting. It's just like a lot less pressure, and it helps me be a better painter too, because I can study their brushwork and the type of paint they use and that kind of stuff. So that's the goal for today. We're gonna do a little portrait. I love my portraits. It's gonna be fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
You in the backyard of your old farm in the summer. Stayed there for 3 weeks where we learned to love each other. Wrote you letters, sent a message to the captain.
Okay, starting off, you see me doing this little outline with this really light blue paint. We use a different color of paint in the actual painting to make sure it stands out, and so when we're painting over it, then we don't get confused with what's part of the painting and what's not. So I was just sketching out how I thought it looked, and over time I realized it was the wrong proportions, which I kind of knew before, but I was going to see if it would work out. So I redid it according to the proportions, and here I'm just mixing the darker color to start the low lights. Usually I just do a big brush over with the same color, like the skin tone at the bottom, but I saw a video on Pinterest and I wanted to try it out with starting with the low lights and just adding them in, which is a really fun way to paint. So I just start with the darkest part of the painting, and then I fill in those parts, so the eyebrows, the background, the hair, and all of that. And here I'm using acrylic paint. For oil painting, you actually do the same thing, where you start off with the darkest colors in the piece and then you add on top of it because you can. But with watercolor, you do the opposite, where you start with the highlights and then you go to the lowlights, because you can't really go over watercolor. I have a hard time with watercolor, but I do love it when I'm relaxed and it works out. So I just added this eye part, and I erased it with a paper towel because I could tell it wasn't the right proportions, and honestly, I don't spend a lot of time mapping out exactly where things are supposed to be, so I end up going back and redoing them, which honestly, it's kind of fun for me because I don't want to get too caught up in things that aren't fun for me, so I'd rather something not turn out exactly and have fun while doing it instead of worrying how perfect it's supposed to be. This is kind of one of the things in my life that I'm okay with being imperfect. Hopefully this will bleed into other parts of my life as well. So yeah, I'm adding different lowlights to the ears and nose now, and I can tell it's getting to be more like the picture. People who haven't done painting before may think it looks crazy right now, and it does. But if you squint your eyes, you can see what parts of the model painting are really dark. And then you look at my painting and it's not that far off. So I use that every now and then, because when you're staring at your own painting for so long, you can get yourself really frustrated, which is normal for a lot of people that paint, because it just looks so weird when you're starting off. So if you use that squinting technique, it helps you realize that where you are and how far you're off, and honestly it comforts me a lot, because at this point it doesn't look like anything. And this is the part where when I was editing the footage, I'm like, this part is so boring, people don't see what it's gonna be, but you kind of have to be patient to see how it all works together. And of course, if you want to, you can just skip forward to the end. It's cool how it comes together with the details, but right now I'm adding a lighter color. Not light, but lighter than the darkest color. And I don't show it, but I'm mixing a lot of paint during this. And instead of just doing the primary colors of red, blue, and yellow, instead I mix it with tertiary colors like green, purple, and orange, because then it makes the transition from one shade of color a lot more smooth to a different shade. So you can see down here the painting and mixing that's going on behind closed doors basically, but it's actually really fun. And then I was able to finally move on from the purple, red hues to the yellow, which I think is probably my favorite part of the painting, because it is just so striking in the eyes to have that yellow hint, and it just it kind of looks funky right now. Like, you look at the right eye and there's nothing except the yellow, then the left eye there's tons of dark around the yellow, but I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna trust the process, keep moving forward. And I kept on, before my paint would dry out, I'd keep on making sure that I had the low lights right before moving on. It's it's hard. The harder thing with acrylics is that it just dries out so quickly. And for me, I love that because I can sit down and do this in one night. And with oil painting, it takes days to dry, and I do want to get into that. And for my mom, she loves oil painting for that reason, but for me, I just want to finish it. Okay, I just started doing the skin tone, which was a little nerve-wracking for me because I was like, it's such a big jump in shades. But I just took a deep breath. I think I took a little break here, got some food, and went back to it. And my style of painting, I like to do a lot of layers and very rough brush strokes. That's why this study is so perfect for me. And so I just started with a kind of blank color, and then I kept on, and I'd put it on the canvas, and if it didn't look right, I'd add another shade. And if you look at the study, that's what they did too. And so it was just a very patient process with the skin tone, because even the slightest shade change actually changes the whole face shape. So it's something that I had to keep on working at, and at the end I was really happy with it. And here I'm just mixing some paint. I always think it's super satisfying to watch people mix paint together, so I wanted to add a portion of it for you guys. I've gotten the darker shades of the skin tone in, and I start adding some layers and lighter shades, especially with the cheekbones. Like, for anyone that does makeup, this isn't anything different. You add your highlights, you add your bronzer basically, but you just do the same thing with portraits. And who knows, maybe I'll do a portrait study of a real person sometimes. Maybe I'll start off with a real picture and then move on to a real person. It's hard when you know the person though, because it ends up not looking like them. So I don't know. And here's where things start really coming together, and you can start seeing a resemblance of a face because you not only have these low lights, but you have these highlights. And so if you squint your eyes again, you can see it coming together. And I think the hardest part of any painting or drawing for me, in order for it to look the most realistic, is the eyes. Like, all around the eyes have to be pretty much spot on in order for it to look real. because like if the nose is good and if the face shape is good, that's great, but if you don't have the eyes looking realistic, then it just doesn't look like a person. And so that's why in a little bit I'll show how it starts coming together, but until then I had to be a little patient with all the other skin tones. Usually at this point I just want to jump forward to the whites because that's when it's really fun, but before I go to the whites I have to start with the base of those cream colors. And in color theory too, it's in any painting it's good to establish color theory, because then you're able to make certain pieces stand out. So with a lot of the deep colors, it's more of a purple tone, right? And then there's a few splashes of yellow, like in the eyes, and then I did a little paint brush stroke on the cheek, as you can see up there. And this idea is they're complementary colors, and so it really makes the piece pop out. And so that part of the cheek is really going to have a definitive feature, and those eyes are really going to pop out. So whether you think about it or not, there's color theory in how people do their paintings, which is so interesting to me because there's so many ways that you can see the world around you, but just understanding a few principles and elements of art can really help you enhance what you see. My art teacher used to say that he hated when people would say his painting looked like a picture, because that's not the idea of painting, that's not the idea of art. You're supposed to enhance what you see, you're supposed to change what you see, you're not just supposed to replicate it. And that's how I feel with videoing too, is that it's not just like reenacting what I'm doing, it's capturing it in a new way and making it beautiful. And as you can see throughout this day, throughout this video, it's been throughout the day. So if you rewind to the beginning of the video, it's super light, and that's how you want it to be, is really good lighting outside and bright windows inside your room so that the color is more spot on. But I almost always work into the night when I'm painting, because when I start I want to finish it because I get so excited. And so I just turned on the lights and did the best I could with the lighting, and I think it was good because at this point I'd established my paint colors already, so it wasn't a big deal. And at this point I'm starting to add those details to the eyes like I was talking about, and it's really fun. If you look closely at the eyes, there's so many colors around them, which may seem like a hard thing to do, but it actually adds a lot of room for error and personalization. And then one of my favorite parts of this painting was the white, like I was talking about. See, you can just like see how those eyes become so much more real, because to make eyes more realistic you have to have that contrast, that really dark and that really light. So here I'm adding the more of the dark, and it's just like magical to me. I didn't realize how magical it was until watching this again. That's the thing I love about videoing this process, which I've never done before. It's really fun to see it come together and have it be at a new perspective. So I'm just adding the last touches here because I could have added all of the lowlights, but I ended up painting over some parts with different colors. So I just, at this point, the paint had mostly dried, so I was going back over and making sure everything was coming together. And look how beautiful it's turning out. I just love it so much. And practice to just love the moment, and if it turns out differently than what I expect, I choose to accept it as it is. And some of the paintings I've done like turn out so horribly And I'm just like, you know what, that was a fun thing to do. I'm gonna keep this to show my children, but besides that, it's gonna be locked in the vault. And besides that, I'm just gonna keep on accepting my paintings as they are and just really appreciate the time it took to put into them and the joy it made me feel. And I feel like that's a really good metaphor for all of life too. Remember to like and comment below. I will film my outro, but thanks for watching. Okay, well, this is the final result. I'm feeling very accomplished right now and a lot better than I did before. I'm still not quite there, but I feel very accomplished, which is a good feeling. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just need to feel like you did something and see what it was. And yeah, it's not exactly like the painting, but I kind of like it being a little different because it's my own thing. And I'll link the painting I got down below. I just got it off Pinterest, so hopefully there's an artist I can tag. But I'm hoping to do more of these and maybe explain my little process in my high school taught art. It's not a ton of instruction, but I'm hoping to get more practice in it. So thanks for coming along the journey, and I'll see you guys next time.